the server rack battery that has the most safety features I've ever tested on the channel. We'll even address the elephant in the room about this.
So I would say this product is not ready for the market yet, and I would not buy it.
So let's do some testing on it, and then you can determine if it's any good or not. This is from Eco-Worthy, the Cubix 100 Pro. First, you get a little baggie of hardware, you get a little ground wire, parallel communication cable, and then parallel positive and negative cables, and then terminal covers. These side handles right here also ship detached from the battery itself, and they simply attach with these 4 screws right here. Obviously, you've got the 2 large terminals on either side. Notice that the screws are recessed, so you can't short your conductor out against the screws, which is awesome. We've got a 125 amp circuit breaker right here, but it's also paired with another breaker up here, which is controlled by the BMS. So the BMS can actually flip this breaker off, even if the overcurrent threshold is not met for the main breaker. And that's a really nice double safety feature to see. Standard indicator lights, dip switches, RSD ports. And then we've got our RS485 and our CAN bus protocol. We've got our RS232 port, and then we have our parallel communication ports for multiple batteries and closed loop communication. This screen is gorgeous, and I love all the information that they give you. Not only do they give you a state of charge indicator, you can also easily see your voltage, your current, and then you can see how many battery packs are in parallel. You can see a power reading in watts, and you can see a state, whether it's idle, charging, or discharging. A reading on amp hours remaining, and then some temperature readouts. So really, you can see a ton of information, all the critical information that anyone would ever want to see right on the home screen right when it turns on, and I love to see that. Let's see if this button does anything. If we tap ESM, nothing happens there. Coming down to this button right here, it comes up with this numeric pad. I would guess that this would be assignment. If you have multiples of batteries in parallel, you can assign which pack is what. In this case, this pack is assigned as number 1. Coming here to this next button, this is where we can set our protocols. To program it, you actually have to set your protocol, and then don't click the read button, just hit the return button. And that will save it, because watch when we go back in here, both of those are Lux Power now. Going to the next button right here on the main screen, we can change our language, and we can change the sleep delay. I'm going to leave everything as default for now. And then we'll push this little person icon, and we need a user login to change stuff here, which I don't know right now. So I really like that screen. Capacity test time. You can see we're at a 100% state of charge. We're going to be metering the power through the Victron Smart Shunt here, and you can see everything is zeroed out. And you can see we're almost pulling an exact 0.2C rate. 20 amps here. Just want to give you a quick update on this capacity test. If you look right here on the Smart Shunt, 100.7 amp hours, so it has pulled full capacity and then some. According to this screen, we've still got 2% left. We are coming down the home stretch because we're 47.5 volts. The shunt is recording 47.3. Now we're down to 0.4. Anyway, voltage is dropping. We'll let this run a little longer and see where it cuts out. 104.3. We're finally registering 0. 42.6 volts and dropping fast. So maybe we could get to 105, but the battery will probably cut out here momentarily. So anyway, 104 to 105 amp hours. Very impressive results, Eco-Worthy. I am very impressed. It's been a while since a battery has pulled this much capacity the first run. So they were using really good cells, you guys. Let's open this battery up. So before we miss it, check out the underside of this lid and count them there. Dual fire extinguishers. Notice that all the conductors are sheathed in this protective sheathing. On this negative cable, you might be able to see that it's 7 gauge, 200 degrees Celsius insulation. I don't know if you can see, but it says 3 gauge. This assembly is very unique from the standpoint that the BMS is over here on the side of the battery, as opposed to up here in the front. And so as a result, there is quite a bit of cabling that needs to go from point A, clear over here, all the way to point B up here in the front. And so note that they have, gone through and zip tied it and kept it neat and tidy. There is just an absolute boatload of cables. They've gone very heavy on the glue stuff to keep connectors and everything in place. And they've secured the cells with this type of rivet or something almost, so we won't be able to remove this whole thing very easily. But we can pull it back here. Obviously, we've got these metal support brackets here. They have the cutouts for the vents. We have little humps in the bus bars between the cells. But then on top of that, there's actually, I don't know if you can hear this, but this is actually a plastic cover piece, which is very interesting. I've never seen something like that that actually goes on top of these cells and only leaves the bus bars exposed. Here on the cells, we have markings of, someone torquing things. However, we do not have that on the main terminal screws. Very interesting to see that the balance leads have actually been spot welded to the terminals. That is something I've never seen done before. And then also take note of the cable management. So the bundle of balance wires come up and they kind of go underneath this metal support bracket. And then all the wires are just kind of tucked underneath that bracket in a neat, tidy sum. Zip tied, zip tied, zip tied. So plenty of zip ties. Not the most I've ever seen in a battery, but lots. And then take note that these cells are encased in metal. On this other side here, we have a very similar cable management setup. We have 2 temperature sensors on this side, 1 and 2. We have 2 temperature sensors on this side, 1 and 2. And I can't see the middle well enough, so I'm not really sure if there are any additional temperature sensors here in the middle or not. Notice that there is a crumple zone from the side of the battery to the side of the cells over here. So you'd have to mash the side of this battery in a good 1/2 inch to 5/8 before you even touch the cell holder. And you can see there's the same size buffer across the back as well, which is good to see. Then I'll let you try to get a look at the BMS as best you can from this angle. It's a little tight, but hopefully you can kind of see what you need to see on that. The sticker on the BMS is right there, and it's a little hard to read. I think it's actually written in a different language other than English. If I were to gripe about something regarding the build quality, I'd just say this just feels very heavy on the cables. That's just simply, like I said, going from point A to point B and not having the cells fill the entire case, to the side and them extending forward further. So does that matter? In my book, not really. Where it holds such good capacity, extremely safe with the dual fire extinguishers. The average person buying this is really never going to open this up and look inside. So if there's a little extra cabling that needed to happen, awesome. At least it works and works well. But certainly sound off in the comments and disagree. I always love hearing your thoughts and observations. Let's look at this Eco-Worthy app. So we've obviously got a state of charge indicator here, voltage, amps. This is cool. Emergency shutdown. I've got this hooked up to the 12,000 XP. That's the only thing powering it right now. Let's try turning this off. Hit the switch. Let's go ahead and hit confirm. Oh wow! I don't know if you saw that, but this shut down. And then did you actually hear or see that the breaker flipped off? Isn't that awesome? So this not only shuts down the BMS, it actually physically disconnects the battery with this breaker. And obviously the 12,000 XP is dead now too. That's a feature I've never seen in a battery before. I really like that. And then here you can change your inverter protocols for communication. Currently I have mine on Lux Power, but you can see there's a whole bunch of options here, and you're welcome to pause and look at it in depth. This is for the CAN bus and the RS485 protocol. These are all the options you have there as well. So lots of communication protocols available. Coming up here to details, we have basically a repeat from that main screen, with the exception of these additional items here for alarm status, the system status. You've got some cell voltage information here, temperature info, and then scrolling up here to the top, you can actually go to cell info and get a snapshot of all the individual cells and their current state. And then there's this little gear cog up here. This battery is compatible with Wi-Fi, so you can actually set up Wi-Fi monitoring if you want truly remote monitoring. I personally am not a fan. I just like the Bluetooth connectivity. Here's another place where you can set up the communication protocols. You can change your temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius. You can change the name of your battery. You can run a firmware update. I am currently on the latest version. And another link for support. Alright, let's test internal communication. I'm plugged into the CAN bus port. This green cable is just coming up here into my conduit box, and I've just simply spliced into the CAN bus cable that's normally plugged into the EG4 wall mount battery. And you can see I've changed the protocol here to lithium battery Lux Power. And you can see here on the screen we are getting a register of 100% state of charge, which matches what the battery is saying. And also, if you look at the EG4 monitoring app, it's registering 100% state of charge in the battery. It knows we just have one battery in parallel, 100 amp hours. Currently, the charge limit is 22 amps, and discharge limit is 100 amps. So yes, internal communication with the 12000 XP and other EG4 products works. Now let me address the elephant in the room. Someone who we all know and love, Will Prowse, made a video about this battery, and summing everything up, he said this.
So I would say this product is not ready for the market yet, and I would not buy it.
Now anyone who's been part of this channel knows this is not my first rodeo with one of Will's videos and testing one of the things that he tested as well. I'm a huge fan of Will's. He's awesome. We really need him in this industry. I think Will enjoys this channel as well. He's been here multiple times and has left comments. So if you come by this time, Will, be sure and leave a comment and say hi. Now, one of Will's strengths is finding anything that's possibly wrong with any product. However, I want to show you a few excerpts from his video of his testing that were actually good points about this battery that agrees with what I've shown you in this video.
And for most cycles, it pulled 108 amp hours. It works! That was cool! Pretty nice build quality though.
And so if this is functioning well as a battery, has good build quality, crushes the capacity tests, has the cool, rapid shutdown technology and everything built into it, why did Will say he wouldn't recommend buying it? I gathered two reasons. Reason number one, in their marketing literature as well as the manual, it talks about this battery being set up so that it can charge below freezing, which if any of you know anything about lithium iron phosphate batteries, that's generally a no-no. And Will actually tested that and found that it would charge, but just at a very, very slow rate. And Will is hilarious.
Now for attempt number 2. We're at -7 degrees Celsius. We're gonna charge with 12 amps and see if it can do it. So it's not much, but it's doing it. This has to be the most boring test I've done in months. And the temperature is rising quickly. Once we hit 0 degrees Celsius, I'm gonna charge with 100 amps, continue the test, and see what the capacity is. Because at this rate, it will take 9 hours to charge. And we just hit 1 amp hour. This is so slow. I'm gonna increase it, I can't wait. Now we're charging with 100 amps.
And there was a bunch of connecting and disconnecting and connecting and disconnecting. And his gripe with that is that he felt like it should have just shut down when he was trying to push the full 100 amps of current into this.
So those results were bad. If the battery is cold and I try to cycle with 100 amps, but it can only charge with 12 amps, it should know this and shut itself down.
So let me tell you what I think of that. I think it's great to see innovation in the space and see if they can, make these batteries work in the cold without heating them. I'm all for that. And so my advice is just keep the darn thing above freezing. And if you can't do that, then you need to get a battery that's specifically built with heaters, or forget lithium iron phosphate altogether and get sodium ion or good old lead acid or something like that that is not affected by the cold as much. And so I agree with Will. The advertising on this battery saying you can charge it below freezing is technically true, but at a reduced rate, and it's not good practice for this kind of battery. Now the second issue that Will had with this was with the app and the software, and it's showing wonky states of charge and different things like that. So we're going to try and test that here with mine and see if I get similar results. So Will was having problems with this jumping up and down. I think he was having problems when he was trying to charge it. So this is a discharge test, but let's test this anyway. We're pulling about 70 amps right now. Let me apply the heat gun now. Let's watch this. 105 amps. We're getting an alarm state here. We've got a notification here. Discharge overcurrent protection, but it's still running. Nothing's jumping around or anything. Let's let it run here for a minute. 103, so we're just barely over what this is rated for. Again, this is discharge. Let's keep watching it for a few minutes here. We're right on the cusp, 100 amps even. Still holding strong, you guys. Okay, so I think I'm gonna say that it works on discharging. All right, now we're grid charging, 100 amps. Coming down here to the app, you can see we're recording like 98 amps here in the app. Let's see if it jumps around at all. So far, staying rock steady. No crazy app fluctuations or anything. We've moved up to 93%, but we haven't had any crazy, up and down and up and down. This is accurately reflecting, what's happening with the battery. So when I clicked refresh right up here, it dropped down to 0. Let's try hitting refresh again now. Still says 0, but prior to me hitting the refresh button, it was working correctly. So let's just see if the app got stuck in a loop. Open it back up, reconnect via Bluetooth, and we're back up. 97% state of charge now. Let's try refreshing it again, see if it goes to 0. Okay, so maybe that has something to do with the problem. Refresh it again. So the refresh button doesn't work. Got to close the app out, reopen it, reconnect. It will load in, and then it gives you accurate readings and will continue to give you accurate readings for the duration of you being, in this page right here. But as soon as you hit the refresh button up here, that's when you lose it. So I'm not getting the same behavior as Will was with it going to 0 and then up to 100 and then to 0 and up to 100. I was also not charging from 0 like Will was. My suspicion on Will's video is if you look at his graphs and his video, you can see the charge turning off and turning back on, turning off, turning back on. When this battery would turn off from charging, the voltage would spike, right? Causing the monitoring inside the battery to say, oh, we're 100% charged, and that's why it would go up to 100. And then it would start charging again, and all of a sudden the voltage would drop, and it would go, oh, just kidding, we're 0. And the charging would turn back off, and it would spike back up to 100, and then charging would start again, and it would go back down to 0. I think that is what was happening in the app, personally. Now, maybe Will, if he comments on this video, could tell us if he thinks that that observation would hold water or not. My issue here, let's see, now that we're charging at a little reduced current, let's try refreshing it. And you can see it, again, lost this indicator here and stuff down here. But the fact that it reconnects immediately after shutting the app down and restarting it is an app bug, which could be easily resolved with, just an app update. I don't think it has anything to do with the battery itself or its hardware or anything like that. It's simply more of a software issue. I want absolutely clear, this is not a hit piece on Will. The brand did not pay me to counter his claims or anything like that. I simply want to make sure you all understood what Will said and validate what he said, or at least add additional insight one way or another as you guys look at this battery. Because truly, from a hardware perspective, this is one of the best batteries that I've tested yet on the channel. Light up the comments and tell me, what do you think of this Eco-Worthy server rack battery? Now that you have Will's perspective, now that you have my perspective, maybe you got to see a few more things in depth on this video that was helpful to you. So let us know, is this something you would invest your money into? And if not, why? I will have links for this down in the description, as well as any coupon codes I can get for you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hype for more in-depth and honest testing videos like this. I've always got something cooking over here, so be excited for more. All of you stay safe, and we'll catch you all next time.